Carm Capriato, another Aftermarket Weekly with my friend Joe Marconi. Hey, Joe.
How you doing, Carm? How's it going? Always great to be here.
Thank you so much. I am appreciative of your time and honored to have you as always. Wish we would have recorded the last 10 minutes.
A very important 10 minutes.
It never fails. The behind the scenes is what we do. We have a green room and then we turn on the recorders and record these episodes. And then there's always some stuff that's discussed at the end.
Yeah.
And there's so much positive vibes and things and discussions and exchanges that go on, and always great to do it with you. Joe Marconi, Executive Council member, Elite Worldwide, and former shop owner, business development coach with Elite. Let me keep going on with this resume. Co-founder of AutoShopOwner.com. It's like IATN for business.
Business, yep.
And Joe says being a forward thinking is in his...
Always.
We are coming to you live and on tape from the Dorman Training Studios, sometimes called my Carm Cave. Thank you, Dorman. Automotive technologies of today and tomorrow demand that professional technicians continuously maintain and grow their knowledge and skill sets. If one does not update, they will evaporate. Mastering the changing technologies, adapting new and more efficient testing techniques, and exploring new tooling and equipment applications are just a few challenges. Dorman Training is dedicated to providing the latest information and proven service and repair tips brought to you by some of the nation's best instructors in the company of some of the nation's best technicians. Dorman has been a leader in driving new product solutions for the automotive aftermarket for more than a century. With DormanTrainingCenter.com, we also deliver the technical training and insight service professionals need to further their careers and stay current. The automotive industry constantly evolves with technical advancements, making it crucial for technicians to stay updated with the latest trends and techniques. By undergoing comprehensive training, aspiring technicians will equip themselves with the necessary skills and knowledge to excel in their field. In addition to personal technical training throughout the United States, Dorman Training Center delivers online training modules covering a wide variety of topics, with new resources rolling out regularly. Whatever your role or experience, you can find helpful information on DormanTrainingCenter.com. Dorman Technical Training covers many of today's advanced automotive systems, including hybrid EV, driver assistance, diagnostics, emission, and complex electronics. Created for working service professionals and taught by ASE certified instructors, classes are held as lunch and learns in the evenings and weekends at on-site locations, as well as available on demand. Bring your knowledge to the next level at DormanTrainingLive.com. Thanks, Dorman. Joe, we're going to talk about this great article that you wrote. So Joe writes this article, I read it, and what do you think I do? I either emailed him, picked up the phone or something, and I said, we got to talk about it. It was about technician production is more complicated than you think. And I said, Joe, what a spot on article. So many things to talk about. The service advisor's role, the value and the tools and the equipment. Do we really know them? Training, sound systems, procedures, policies, workflow management, and all that stuff. Let's dive in.
Okay. This concept of efficiency and productivity has to be redefined because, let's face it, like part of our discussion before we came on was the complexity of the automobile today. And 20, 30, 40 years ago, that quote unquote a technician, which really in my mind is very difficult to define today.
Yeah.
It's hard to pinpoint production and efficiency, only point toward the technician to say that's his or her responsibility. It just doesn't work like that anymore. It really doesn't. There are so many other factors involved. We're going to talk about all these factors today. You need a team, just like a team.
Yes.
Like a football team. You don't rely on the quarterback or the running back or just on the receivers. It's a team effort. If the team is to win, if the shop is to have high production, it's got to be a team effort. It really does.
I remember reading articles, Joe, on the critical importance of a team and how many people work together. They are observing what's going on over here. They may have to come in and double check the torque putting a vehicle on. And someone is just struggling and trying to understand something on a scope. A person who's a, if you will, junior member of the team, and the heavy diag person comes over and says, hey, what's going on?
Right.
Or somebody is reading some stats that are coming off of a battery test and they're not 100% sure. Don't think you have to know it and do it all on your own. But as a team member, because we're always looking for a great effective labor rate as a team, right?
Yeah.
How we can
Yeah.
help each other.
Yeah.
I think the power of observation, and I think the total commitment in the culture of the company as we work together as a team. We move forward, we move back, we move on the side as a team. We're here to
Well,
help each other.
calm. I mean, you just said a mouthful there because it does always. I've spoken about this a number of times. It begins and ends with it has to be leadership because the right culture of the company. That's why you got to be very careful. I'm not about pay plans. I'm not going to go into all the pay plans. That's not what we're here about today. But I got to be real careful that you're not rewarding the wrong behavior.
Yeah.
Because you can get one tech or two techs in the shop that have very high production levels. To your point, what about the person that's struggling, that 3 year, that technician that's only in the business for 3 years who doesn't really know how to get all the necessary information to go through that trouble on the car. So yeah, it does take a village. It really does, and has the right culture. Again, this goes back to redefining what we're looking at in terms of tech production and tech efficiency these days.
Yeah.
It's different. It's totally different.
Exactly right. And I can't help but think, Joe, and you would know this so well, sound systems, procedures and policy
Yeah.
that define situations and lead us to what the next thing is.
Exactly, because I was always a big proponent of training, outside training, virtual training, whatever it is. But there's another important factor that I think a lot of shops miss, and that is the in-house training of going through these procedures and policies. Every shop is like a fingerprint. No two are alike. So if you're going to increase production, you got to bring your team together and find out what's working, what's not working. You may have a technician says, "Hey, boss, you're giving us all these BMWs. We don't have the right tools and equipment, the right scanners." Or you could have the business owner wants increased car counts with, I'm not going to go down that road because that's another whole story, but you increase car counts. Do you have the right staffing up front to take care of all that? Is the service advisor also required to look up parts maybe or to start the multi-point process to drive a customer home? There are so many factors involved when you look at technician productivity. Forget about technician productivity. Let me rephrase that. Shop production, company production. It can't be solely on the backs of the technician.
So I buy this new piece of equipment for you. Joe, how do you like that new scan tool I got you? I said, boss, thank you. It's something we've needed for so long.
Yeah.
Okay. And I walk away. No, don't walk away. You say, so what are you doing to know this tool inside and out?
Yeah. In-house training is the key. What are you doing to prepare for using any tool, any piece of equipment? It could be a new road course balance that your shop never had before, whatever it is. To your point, Carm, you're right on target there. You have to have the training. Training is so critical today. I go back a long time. I go back to the early mid 70s. And back then, you can get away with a lot because you can learn on the job. And it was much different. It was much more mechanical in nature. Today, it's just not that way.
Yeah.
You're bouncing from Mercedes to Land Rovers to Toyota Corollas. You got to think about what the general repair industry, if you're doing general repair, what that looks like today as opposed to 30, 40 years ago. Big difference.
Team production, shop production. I remember it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, we did an episode on lean. I really want to do more Six Sigma stuff.
Six Sigma, yes.
I want to do a lot more because I really think this could be one of the unfound areas of improved productivity and efficiency. And I'll never forget, one of our panelists did a survey of the steps it took just to do an oil change. And they recorded them all, Joe. They're there, and they drew it, and it looked like a plate of spaghetti.
I know. I could imagine. Yeah.
The oil filters were here. The oil was there. The battery charger was there. The rags were here. The wrenches were there. The drain plugs were there.
Gasket with,
I know. And so when people, and again, was at a meeting this morning, and one of the shop owners says, I just bought 4 of this newest battery tester that I want from a place. 4. He says there's going to be 1 with each lift.
Yeah. And you know something? I had a situation with a shop, a client of mine, and he was struggling with shop production. I says, the first thing you got to do is have a team meeting. Bring the team together. So no one wants to talk at a team meeting. I says, just try it. He says, keep your mouth shut. Just try it. It may not happen on the first, second meeting, but the third meeting, they're going to start talking to you.
Yeah.
So he sees this young tech finally raises his hand and says, hey, boss, I got a tip about shop production. How about moving the wheel balancer next to the tire changer? Think about that, because it was on 2 ends of the shop.
Yeah.
So you bring him. So you have, in other words, they got to mount the tire, then roll it over to the balancer and then balance it. To your point, Carl, that one step alone saves time. So again, I go back to it. It begins and ends with looking at the numbers, the technician's numbers. That's just the starting point. It's a
Yeah.
whole different dynamic when you really want to increase team production.
Move the battery chargers around, take the tools from the back room out to a specific place on the shop floor,
Yeah,
even if it's
yeah,
lock and key.
yeah.
There's so many different ways. And that, Joe, talk about having meetings. You say, have meetings and wait 2 or 3 weeks, they'll start opening up to you. The point of it is have a meeting on something that they want to talk about.
That's true.
Right
Yeah,
away, I believe that
100%.
they'll open up. So let's not forget that safety, no matter what it is that we're doing in our company to improve efficiency and productivity, has to be at the top of the list.
Safety,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Again, that goes back to in-house training. How many meetings do you have? And we all get complacent. We all forget about these things, but you got to make it part of your routine. And it's got to be on your schedule to have these meetings about safety. Too many things could happen in the blink of an eye. So yeah, I agree 100%. That it's got to be part of your routine. Safety actually improves productivity in the long run because you're thinking about a safe way to maneuver. If someone gets hurt or there's a situation develops, it's just not good for the overall morale of the team.
One other thing I think about, Joe, and stop me if I'm wrong, please, about this whole topic, is to empower our people to make decisions.
Oh man, oh my God. You are so on point. The worst thing you can do is handcuff somebody's innovative mind. That's the worst thing you can do. We're so afraid of shop owners. If we let the rope go out too far, too quickly, they're going to make a mistake. But we all forget sometimes that how we got where we are as shop owners, we made a lot of mistakes, a lot of
Yeah,
mistakes.
yeah.
So sometimes you have to allow them the ability to think on their own. And if you don't exactly agree with it, let them run with it. Sometime let them run with it. But look, let's face it. We all know this. We all heard this expression. Shop owners, you can't be the smartest guy in the room. We all talked about this. Because if you were to rely strictly on your abilities and your brain power, your business will plateau because you're only limited by your resources, by your God-given talents and your brain power. That's why you got to hire good people. And once you have those good people, you'll have to let them grow within a company. That just can't be the owner of the company or the management that grows. A company can't grow without the people within the company also growing, or else the company will plateau. And it cannot, to repeat myself, be totally reliant on your brain power. To your point again, spot on. They have to be able to be innovative, think on their own, make decisions, move forward.
How about assigning work in the workflow to the right individual?
When I was in business, I tried to understand the strengths of my team. So if I knew on a busy, packed day, if I knew someone was very proficient in check engine lights, he got the check engine light. If somebody was very proficient in electrical, let's say a door motor had to be replaced, and that was Larry, I gave it to Larry. Larry got dispatched. But there is also an argument that you got to spread it around to a point, if at all possible, where you give the people that are not experienced, as opposed to the older guys, the most experienced guys, give them the opportunity to learn and grow too. Let's face it, no one is born. Let's make a sports analogy. Michael Jordan, probably, if not the greatest, one of the greatest basketball players of all time. But he wasn't born with the ability to dribble a ball and shoot a basketball. He had to learn those skills. The same thing with technicians. In the real world, when it's busy and you're slammed, yeah, you have to assign the right technician. Know the strengths of your technicians and assign their job they can do very efficiently.
There's different variations of shops. We've got shop foremen, shop managers. We've got lead service advisors. Whose real role in the company is it to assign jobs?
If you have a shop foreman,
That's the job.
Yeah, because in my role, that foreman, he's the hub. He's the hub. It has to be direct communication from the technicians to the foreman to the service advisor. Now, a lot of shops don't have that shop foreman. So there's got to be a lot of work because communication is key between this. Too many things get mixed. They get mixed up. They get forgotten. The notes don't get presented properly from the technician's work order. They don't. But in a real world best case scenario, yeah, you want a shop foreman as the hub. A true foreman, though, because I've seen foremans that they're required to put the book 20, 30 hours a week. And that's not a true foreman. So you got to be real careful with that. The position of the foreman can really improve the shop production because that person is going to be in charge of service and shop, service and repairs, going back and forth. A very good point.
And to be able to assess what kind of training, the tools and equipment that we need to do a really good job. Let me ask you about parts availability, delivery, getting them there in and on time.
Well, that's another problem too. The past couple of years for a lot of shops, it's getting better now, but it's been a horror show of getting parts. Some parts not available. You got to go through 3 or 4 different manufacturers, 3 or 4 different suppliers. Sometimes you got to go to the dealer world, which maybe some people are opposed to, but you got to do what you got to do to get that job done. So that becomes a real issue. And sometimes I would say the majority of shop owners, which I have the greatest respect for because what they do on an everyday basis is nothing short of a miracle. It really is what they do. But sometimes they don't want to compromise. And sometimes settling for a part that you don't want to necessarily purchase, you got to do what you got to do. But sometimes it means sidelining that car because to wait for the part that you want. But
Mhm.
that's, again, we go back to production, right? So if the service advisor, let's say you don't have a parts person now, and the service advisor has to chase down a water pump for a 99 Land Rover and there's none available in your state. Let's say you got to go cross country or overseas to get one. That's a problem. How much time is being taken up by the service advisor instead of writing those jobs? So again, it's a bottleneck and has to be addressed. And it's getting better, but it's a problem. It's a problem.
And and the best of the best realize that you don't raise a labor rate to fix this problem.
You look at labor rates. Well, first of all, labor rates have gone big time, increased the past couple of years. For the most part, too many of us were too cheap for too long. I get that. But the labor rate is not going to just solve all your problems. You got to
Right.
look at your effective labor rate too. Labor rate, because I've seen shops that have a posted rate of 175. When we actually do the math, they're down around 110, 100 bucks an hour because there's something wrong with writing the estimates, not billing out correctly. The advisors wheeling and dealing sometimes that in their defense, they're thinking that if I take a little off the job, I can get the job. There's a lot going on here, a lot going on, and which I hate, by the way. You don't walk into Burger King and say, I'm not paying $4.95 for that Whopper or whatever, or Starbucks. I'm not paying that for that grande coffee. You don't do that. So why is it done in our profession? I don't know why, but it's getting less and less these days because shop owners have put their foot down and say, look, enough is enough. We have
Yeah.
to get this. But I agree with you. Just raising your rate. First of all, you have to know how to raise your rate. That's a whole nother podcast. And once you get there, you have to calculate what is your actual effective labor. In other words, what are you truly making per hour? Then that'll determine where you need to go from there.
Wow, you just mentioned 4.95 Whopper.
I don't know if that's true or not.
No, you probably are, and it
Yeah.
probably is low. A friend of mine went on this little mini trip, came back, we had dinner a week later, and he goes, "Carm, I walked up to get what's a meal at McDonald's called? What do they call 'em? Value meal."
Value meal.
And when do you get a value meal? And he goes, "And a Big Mac value meal was $17.95." And I looked at him and I said, "You just can't be right." He goes, "Maybe I was near Pittsburgh. Maybe it's a big city and the prices are up there." And just 3 nights ago, this is a month ago, 3 nights ago, there was a news story about the price of the fast food that we love. And that was the price they mentioned, a
Yeah.
particular city, for a Big Mac value
Value meal.
meal.
Oh my God. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
I would love to do, this is how my crazy mind works, Joe. Let's see how much transportation went up. Maybe the French fries don't cost much more in this big billion French fry production system that they have, but just to get them out to the stores and the new wages to pay and the insurance is going up. Look at your homeowners the next time the bill comes in and then pick up the phone, which I did just 3 days ago, and said to my insurance carrier, "Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm paying this much more?" And
Yeah.
she says, "Carm, like everything else, it's hitting this industry big time.
Yep.
Home values, the cost of this, the cost of that, just the cost of just replacing something. If it goes bad, they've got to cover their butts."
Yeah, of course. Let me just piggyback on something too about the labor rate and the raising of pay and the benefits. I think it's heading in the right direction, and we should, because for too long, again, we didn't pay our people enough. I believe we should have paid them a higher, decent salary. That's not going to be the cure all for what's going on in any industry.
Yeah.
You just can't throw enough money at anything going to make it work and going to make it satisfy people, because in spite of what you may hear, money's a motivator, money's demotivated. It really isn't. It's a lot more to it than just the money. It goes back to what we said earlier in the beginning about the culture and the leadership of a company. Let me just back up a second, sidestep here. I think you do need to pay people the wage that they earn, that they deserve, and benefits package and all that. I really do believe that, because I think that to attract and retain quality people, they have to earn a certain living, but that's not going to keep them. And talk about, because this has to do with productivity and efficiency. If you're having turnover rate, if they're not happy in the workplace, there's nothing you're going to do. No system in the world is going to solve that. So it begins and ends with culture and begins and ends with leadership. Without that, you don't have a business. You could throw all the money in the world at somebody, and if it's the wrong culture and they're not happy, they're leaving. Let's face it, we've heard this expression too. People don't leave their job, they don't leave the company, they leave the people they work with, and most
Right.
likely the boss or the manager. So
I want to work there. Really? You want to work there? Yes. Why? Then you start hearing all the reasons.
yeah,
We're family, we care for each other, we get recognition.
yeah,
There's so many other, they care about what we think, what we have to say. They help me in the tool decisions. People want this. They send me to training, they pay for it. And none of that had to do with the living wage. None of that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
None of that.
yeah. Again, we're coming full circle here, but it does all play into the team concept when we're trying to determine what's the best course of action to increase production. And culture and leadership has to be a component of that.
I'm going to jump back to effective labor rate. I know you mentioned it. I just
Yeah.
recently did an episode on no, I'm sorry. It came up and I said, you know what? Every time we talk about effective labor rate, I am going to remind everyone what the formula is. It's total labor sales dollars divided by total labor hours billed.
Yes.
If we're efficient, we can bill more hours.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we have to be faster at anything.
Yeah.
We have to be efficient at it.
Yeah. You just point to one thing very, very important, because moving fast is not the answer. They're not animals. They're not racehorses. You can't just tell them move faster, organize yourself. If the service advisor is not skilled enough on how to build the job, build the right time, especially we're talking about testing for check engine lights, drivability problems, there's nothing that technician is going to do in terms of speeding up his or her work to make up for an estimate that's not built properly. Nothing in the world. I don't want to hear it.
You have to be good enough to have the ability to bill the hours during the day or the week, the hours that you've committed to. And if you're flat rate, you're paying someone 8 hours to do a 6-hour job, they get the 8.
Of course.
The 8, they do it in 6. Efficient, quality controls, no comebacks. Ooh,
Yeah.
that's a good thing. In that 8-hour day, we're down to 6, we can book more. And that improves your effective labor rate.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But you have to understand too, though, and I want to just add to that, it goes back to what I said earlier. Technician has to know what's expected of them. Let's assume this is a top level technician. On the car, they do all mechanical work. They really are experienced. And I'm going to make this up. This is not a proposed number, but this is just, I'm making this up. Let's say from that position, not the person, the position, in a 40-hour week, you require a minimum of 40 hours billed labor. That's a starting point. But to get there, it doesn't only rely on the technician's ability to produce those hours. Because if the technician gets a check engine light, and this, I've seen this all the time, and truly that's a complicated job that took that technician 4 hours to fully go through to arrive at a conclusion, but they billed out, but his time is billed out at a menu can job rate of, let's say, 195. That how in the world is that technician going to earn those hours or going to produce those hours? The starting point to look at is the technician, but actually the starting point to look at is how the estimates are generated, how you're arriving at that labor time. Are you using the labor guides as a Bible, or are you understanding that this particular check engine light or drivability problem is not a menu-based price out of a labor guide? Again, it gets complicated. You've got to include these things when you're trying to determine how to increase labor and efficiency.
This business is easy, Joe. I think I'm going to go open a shop.
God bless you.
Wait a minute. That's what you thought all those years ago.
You're right.
You groomed and you grew and you struggled and you learned, and you're not back in 1980. You're not. You moved along where you needed to be so that you could learn, groom, and grow and be successful.
Yeah, but I had to fall apart to get there. I'm saying,
yeah,
I had
know.
to make a lot of mistakes to get there.
I'm so grateful to you. Back when I first started the podcast, March 2015, you came on with episode 11 with me.
Wow. Okay.
In May of 2015, March, April, May, episode 11. And you
Wow.
told a hell of a story.
Yeah. About me pulling apart. I know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have time for that now, but I'll
We've
give you
been friends. We've been
yeah.
friends for
Yeah.
about 8 years. I so appreciate your time.
Yeah.
We're not gonna change the world, but we're going to excite this dialogue that we had
Yeah.
with people and
Yeah.
maybe trigger, Joe, oh my god, and they're gonna write down a couple of really cool takeaways here to find 1, 2, or 3 little areas that they can
That's it.
improve in their business. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it takes. Life is a series of little incremental improvements each and every day. And
Yeah.
that's what it is. If you can do that, and there's no such thing as a destination. Shop owners, technicians out there, you're never going to say, I reached it. I reached the point of that's it. That's not the way it works. Because if you reach that point, it's the end of your life.
Yeah.
If you're a business owner, you have to commit to a lifelong commitment that every day you're just going to make it just a little bit better and a little bit better. And that's what you got to hope for. Then make it a little bit better. If you go into the day with that attitude, a positive mindset, with a growth mindset that you can accomplish things, then you're going to make your life a lot better. You'll never get to the pinnacle of perfection. That's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is I think the point of today also is to start thinking through the process. Low production, yeah, monitor and measure the technicians, but also look at everything else. The shop layout. Do you have the right tools? The training, in-house training. Are your service advisors too busy? Are they picking up too many phone calls? Are they driving people down the corner to their home? There's a lot going on there. So, like to your point, when you look at Lean Six Sigma, you got to analyze the steps of each operation and say, can we eliminate some steps or can we fine tune this? And just take a open mind approach to your business. And I guarantee you, you're going to say it's not really totally on the backs of the technician. Everybody involved. It's like a football team. You got the quarterback, the running backs, you got the wide receivers, the offensive line, defensive line. You can't win a championship without everybody doing that need to do. Same thing in your business.
What a great summary. Tell me about Fly with the Eagles.
That's in February 6th through the 8th. And I'll be there. I'm the main presenter with Kevin Vaught, a good buddy of mine. He's also a coach at Elite. It's probably, in my mind, the most powerful business management course on the planet. We go through everything from financials, leadership, culture, marketing. We go through recruiting, employee management, so many things. We go deep dive to every subject, 3 days of intense training. A lot of breakout groups we have now too, which we break out and we discuss things. Yeah, looking forward to it. And
If I was a shop owner, you recommend it. But if I was a general manager, would you recommend it?
yeah, we get a lot of managers in that course. We get
Okay.
a lot of service advisors come too, because the shop owners will bring the manager, general manager, and they'll bring the lead service advisor too, because let's get all on the same team here.
Yeah.
So we'll see a shop owner come back. In other words, they may go alone the first time, then they come back a second or third time, bringing more people and more people with them. Yeah.
A scenario. I'm the father. I have this daughter of mine who's working in the business and she wants in. I could send her to Fly with the Eagles.
You know what? She'll get a lot out of it. We have people in the industry, people from TechMetric and AutoLeap and Sharp Marketing Pros will be there. They
Yeah.
want to sit in. They want to
Yeah.
sit in. Turnkey marketing. They want to sit in and say, what's this all about, this Fly with the Eagles? I call it the magic. And I remember when I first attended my Fly with the Eagles as a client of Elite, at the time, Bob Cooper, the first day you got your hands folded. What am I going to get out of this? By the second day, you're like, wait a minute. By the third day, you're like, oh man, this is all the lights go off in your brain. And the magic. It's the magic. Fly with the Eagles. Yeah.
Where is it this year?
It's going to be in Dallas.
It's going to be in Dallas.
Yep. Dallas. Yeah.
Dallas
Looking
this
forward
year.
to it. Yep.
All right. Joe Marconi, co-founder of AutoShopOwner.com. Please go on that, subscribe.
Thank
Joe,
you.
you publish all of our great content. Thank you for that. Former shop owner,
Yep.
business coach at Elite. As always, I appreciate your time. Keep writing these great articles.
I will.
Coming on, we'll talk about them.
I promise. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Take care.